Imagine this every time your eyelids close and you drift into sleep. The entire universe stops moving. The rivers freeze. The stars pause in their paths, and even the ticking of clocks halts in absolute silence. Then, when you awaken, the stage lights of existence flicker back on, and time begins again, as if it had only ever existed for you. What if this impossible idea isn't as far from truth as it first appears? And what if your entire life has been lived under the quiet illusion that time is universal, when in reality, it might only be personal? Before we go further, take a slow breath and notice the sensation of air filling your body. As you do, I invite you to consider subscribing, not out of habit, but because you might one day want to return to this question. Has everything you believed about time been an illusion? Share your thoughts in the comments if that question stirs something inside you. Think about how strange time really is. Sir Isaac Newton, in the 17th century, declared time to be absolute, flowing like a river, the same for everyone, everywhere. But Albert Einstein shattered that certainty in 1905 with his theory of relativity, proving that time bends, stretches, and shrinks depending on speed and gravity. An astronaut moving at incredible velocity ages slower than someone resting on Earth. Dr. Eiffel and Dr. Keating tested this in 1971 by flying atomic clocks on airplanes around the world, discovering measurable time differences when compared to clocks on the ground. The conclusion was clear: time is not universal. It's flexible, dependent, relative. And if it can shift and bend, perhaps it can also stop altogether, at least when you are no longer awake to perceive it. Picture yourself in bed at night. You close your eyes, drift into dream, and suddenly it is morning. Hours have passed on the clock, but in your direct experience, no time was felt at all. To you, there was no night, only a moment of closing your eyes, followed by an opening again. You may have lived entire dream worlds, but even those often collapse in memory, vanishing like mist. Is it so hard to imagine? Then, that time only flows when you are conscious of it. That perhaps, in those blank spaces of sleep, the entire universe pauses, waiting for your awareness to return. This thought isn't new. Ancient Hindu texts spoke of Maya, the great illusion, suggesting that time itself is part of the dream of existence. In Zen Buddhism, practitioners often meditate on the present moment as the only reality, hinting that past and future are constructs of a mind that insists on continuity. Neuroscientists today, like Dr. Dean Buonamano of UCLA, argue that time is not a property of the external world, but an emergent feature of the brain, a way of stitching together experience so life doesn't feel like a series of still frames. If that's true, then sleep might simply be the moment when the stitching machine is turned off and the film strip halts. And so, as you lie here listening, you might begin to feel that time itself is not chasing you tonight. There is no rush, no urgency. Only the quiet possibility that the universe itself is resting with you, waiting gently for your next awakening. Imagine standing among the ruins of an ancient city, the stones worn smooth by centuries of wind, the carvings half erased by time, yet even in their silence, they whisper something profound. as if those who built them understood secrets about time that modern science has only begun to rediscover. Could it be that the ancients were not primitive at all, but explorers of reality who grasped mysteries we've forgotten? Take the Egyptians. The temple walls at Abydos and Dendera depict cycles of creation, destruction, and renewal, suggesting time wasn't seen as a straight line, but as an eternal loop. The god Ha, often shown holding palm ribs with notches, symbolized infinite time, not measured in seconds or hours, but in the rhythm of existence itself. Archaeologists dismiss these as mere symbols. Yet, why did a culture so obsessed with the afterlife place such importance on the nature of time? The Mayans, too, carried astonishing knowledge. Their calendar wasn't simply about marking days. It described repeating cosmic cycles spanning thousands of years. In 2012, much of the world misinterpreted the Mayan long count as predicting an apocalypse. In truth, it reflected the end of one cycle and the beginning of another. Dr. Anthony Avini, an archaeoastronomer from Colgate University, studied Mayan codices and discovered that their priests tracked planetary movements with precision rivaling modern observatories. Their understanding of cycles suggests they may have believed time paused between endings and beginnings, much like the stillness you feel between one breath and the next. And then there are the Vedic traditions of India, which speak of yugas, vast ages that repeat endlessly. According to these texts, entire civilizations rise and fall as part of cosmic rhythms, with each cycle echoing the last. The philosopher Sri Aurobindo suggested that these cycles mirror the evolution of human consciousness itself, as though time expands and contracts based on the awareness of those who live within it. You might picture yourself walking through a jungle where a vine-covered pyramid suddenly appears. It's quiet, except for the distant calls of birds. You touch the cold stone, and for a moment, it feels as if time itself is suspended. These monuments were built to last longer than the lifetimes of their builders. Why? Perhaps because they weren't building for time as we know it, but for cycles they believed would repeat endlessly. Even in Western traditions, echoes remain. The Stoic philosopher Marcus Aurelius wrote in his Meditations that all things are repeated from eternity to eternity. The Greeks had two words for time: chronos, the ticking sequence we measure, and kairos, the timeless moment of significance. Could it be that sleep places us into kairos, while waking consciousness traps us in chronos? Modern researchers have begun connecting these ancient perspectives with neuroscience. Dr. Lara Boroditsky, a cognitive scientist at UC San Diego, has shown that different cultures perceive time differently. In some indigenous Australian languages, people don't speak of time as ahead or behind, but as north and south, linked to the land itself. This suggests that time isn't fixed. It is shaped by human perception, language, and culture. Allow yourself to imagine, for just a moment, that when you dream, you are stepping into the same eternal cycles that the ancients mapped in stone and scripture. The ticking of clocks belongs only to modern minds, but the deep flow of existence belongs to something older, something vast. And as you drift here tonight, Perhaps you too can feel those echoes, the rhythm beneath the noise, the silence between heartbeats, where time pauses, just as it may have for those who came before us. Imagine for a moment that the very words you hear now have been spoken before, whispered across centuries by sages, monks, and seekers who carried wisdom from one generation into the next. It is almost as though language itself is a thread, weaving you into an endless tapestry of human understanding. Could it be that texts written thousands of years ago still pulse with the same mystery you feel right now? Take the Upanishads, ancient Indian texts written more than 500 years ago. They describe the Atman, the eternal self, as not bound by time or death. One passage declares, "As a man casts off worn-out garments and takes on new ones, so does the soul cast off bodies and take on others." Scholars like Dr. Patrick Olivelle, a professor of Sanskrit and Indian religions at the University of Texas, have traced how these teachings influenced not just Hindu thought, but also Buddhism, Jainism, and beyond. Imagine being told that who you are in this moment may not be the first version of you, nor the last. From the deserts of Judea, the mystics of the Dead Sea Scrolls wrote about eternal cycles of light and darkness, suggesting reality was not simply a straight march forward, but an unfolding drama endlessly replayed. These scrolls, discovered in 1947 in caves near Qumran, revealed sects of Jewish mystics who believed time itself was layered, sacred, and constantly renewed. As you listen, you might sense that same layering. Memories stacked upon memories, lifetimes upon lifetimes. The Tao Te Ching, composed by Laozi around the 6th century BCE, offers another glimpse. It teaches that returning is the movement of the Tao. Return, not progression. The universe flows back to itself endlessly. Dr. Chad Hansen, a noted scholar of Chinese philosophy, explains that the Taoist vision of time is circular, more like breathing than ticking. Inhale, exhale. A return to stillness. Perhaps that's why when you breathe deeply now, you feel a sense of being part of something ancient. A rhythm larger than your own heartbeat. Mystical teachers also appear in more recent times. Sufi poets like Rumi described existence as an endless dance of union and separation. He wrote of the soul returning to the beloved again and again. These aren't just verses. They are invitations to feel eternity inside a single moment. You might notice that as you hear his words, time seems to stretch, as though the present moment itself becomes wider, softer, infinite. Even modern psychology echoes these patterns. Carl Jung, the Swiss psychiatrist, believed in what he called the collective unconscious, a deep reservoir of symbols, myths, and archetypes that repeat across cultures and eras. Jung noticed that patients often dreamed of ancient symbols they had never encountered. Could it be that their minds were tuning into timeless patterns, the same ones spoken of in scriptures thousands of years old? Picture yourself holding a worn manuscript. The ink has faded, but the words still glow with a strange power. You realize the person who wrote them lived and died long ago, yet their thoughts have survived, waiting for you. What is a text? After all, but a message sent across time. Each letter, each phrase, a ripple carrying the voice of someone who may have believed, as you might now, that existence itself is a repeating dream. And what about you? When you listen to these words, when you drift into dreams tonight, aren't you also becoming a text? A story recorded, not in books or scrolls, but in the quiet memory of the universe itself. Mystical teachers have always suggested that nothing is lost, that wisdom returns, just as rivers return to the sea, and as the sea returns to clouds and rain. So allow yourself to feel that continuity now. Imagine yourself as both reader and writer of an eternal book, one where every chapter is lived again, in countless forms. The teachers are still speaking, the texts are still alive, and you, too, are part of their message. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine living in a world where the stars above you were not distant suns, but divine lanterns, placed with purpose by unseen hands. For most of human history, that was the unquestioned reality. But then came a shift, a quiet revolution that whispered, what if the universe runs on principles that can be measured, tested, repeated? This was the birth of modern science, and like all great awakenings, it began with questions that seemed almost too bold to ask. What if the heavens move not because of gods, but because of laws? What if time itself could be observed, tracked, and defined? Before the 16th century, such thoughts were dangerous, yet they began to spread. In 1543, Nicolaus Copernicus published De Revolutionibus Orbium Coelestim, on the revolutions of the celestial spheres. He dared to suggest that Earth was not the center of the cosmos, but instead revolved around the sun. Imagine the disorientation, centuries of belief overturned in a single book. Dr. Owen Gingerich, historian of science at Harvard, noted that Copernicus delayed publishing until the year of his death, fearful of how radical his ideas were. But in that moment, humanity stepped out of a world ruled by dogma and into one ruled by inquiry. Then came Galileo Galilei. In 1609, he lifted a telescope toward the night sky. What he saw shattered illusions, mountains on the moon, moons circling Jupiter, stars beyond stars. In 1610, he published Sidereus Nuncius, the Starry Messenger. Galileo's discoveries were so threatening that by 1633, he stood trial before the Inquisition, accused of heresy. Yet his work ignited the idea that truth could be seen with one's own eyes, not dictated by authority. Today, when you picture yourself peering through a telescope, you're reliving that same moment of revelation, the sky becoming not smaller, but endless. Time itself became a subject of science. In 1656, Dutch mathematician Christian Huygens invented the first pendulum clock accurate enough to measure seconds. Suddenly, time was no longer the rhythm of sunrise and sunset. It became something mechanical, universal, predictable. Dr. Peter Damerow of the Max Planck Institute for the History of Science wrote that Huygens' clock transformed not only science but society, creating the very schedules and routines that still govern us today. Without realizing it, humanity began to live inside the tick and tock of machines. By the late 1600s, Isaac Newton arrived with his philosophy, Naturalis Principia Mathematica, in 1687. He gave the world laws of motion and universal gravitation. For the first time, the universe could be described with equations, elegant absolute, eternal. Newton himself believed he was uncovering the mind of God, yet his work built the foundations for modern physics. Think of that. Before Newton, the cosmos was mystery. After Newton, it became clockwork. Every falling apple, every orbiting planet, became proof of an orderly design. You might imagine yourself walking through a candlelit study in Newton's time. Books and manuscripts stacked on heavy wooden tables, the air filled with ink and wax. A pendulum clock ticks steadily in the corner. The sense that, finally, humans had begun to grasp the hidden gears of reality. Could it be that understanding time meant controlling it? Or was it only the illusion of control? It wasn't only physicists. In 1628, William Harvey published his discovery of the circulation of blood. The heart as a pump, the body as a system. The same mechanistic worldview that explained planets also explained people. Humans were no longer mystical vessels. They were machines governed by physical laws. Dr. Andrew Ware, historian of medicine at the University of London, described Harvey's work as a shift that bound biology to time, because circulation itself was rhythmic, measurable, predictable. Notice how the pattern unfolds. Each discovery narrowed mystery, yet expanded wonder. The more humanity understood, the larger the universe appeared. And here is the paradox. These scientists set out to define reality, yet in doing so, they made reality even stranger. For if time and matter follow laws, then what is freedom? If the cosmos is a machine, then where does the dream of infinity reside? As you drift with these thoughts, you might realize the beauty of this foundation. Galileo, Huygens, Newton, Harvey, they were not ending mystery, they were deepening it. Each law, each experiment, opened new questions. Science at its root does not remove wonder, it sharpens it. And so, as the pendulum swings, as the apple falls, as the planets turn in their quiet arcs, you are reminded that to measure time is not to own it. Perhaps, as you lie here, you too are part of that unfolding clockwork, caught between the rhythm of breath and the vast machinery of the cosmos. Imagine for a moment that everything you've been told about reality is precise, predictable, locked in place like gears in a machine. That was the inheritance left by Isaac Newton, a universe that could be described, calculated, mastered. But then, centuries later, came a whisper that unsettled the very clockwork. What if time is not absolute? What if space bends? What if the universe is not a rigid mechanism but a flowing, shifting fabric? In 1905, a young patent clerk named Albert Einstein published his theory of special relativity. Without a laboratory, without advanced instruments, he relied on pure thought experiments. Imagine, he asked, riding alongside a beam of light. What would you see? From this impossible vision, Einstein concluded that time itself is not universal. It stretches and shrinks depending on motion. Two people moving at different speeds might not agree on when an event happened, and yet both would be correct. Dr. Brian Greene, professor of physics at Columbia University, once explained that Einstein's discovery shattered the absolutes of Newton's world and revealed a universe far stranger than anyone had imagined. Suddenly, the steady ticking pendulum of Huygens was no longer a reliable master of time. Instead, time became personal, elastic, woven into the very structure of the cosmos. And the revelations didn't stop there. In 1915, Einstein extended his vision with the general theory of relativity. Here, gravity was no longer an invisible force pulling objects together. Instead, mass bent space and time itself, like a bowling ball pressing into a trampoline. The moon orbits Earth not because it's tugged, but because space-time tells it to curve. Imagine the dizziness of that realization, that you lying here are resting not on solid ground, but within an invisible fabric that bends, stretches, and ripples beneath your every breath. Einstein's ideas seemed impossible. Yet in 1919, British astronomer Sir Arthur Eddington led an expedition to observe a solar eclipse. As the moon covered the sun, the starlight near its edge appeared displaced, bent by the sun's gravity. Newspapers across the world declared,
"Einstein triumphs."
For the first time, the human eye had glimpsed space itself bending. But revolutions rarely stop at one door. As Einstein was rewriting gravity and time, another strange frontier was opening. In the early 20th century, physicists like Niels Bohr, Werner Heisenberg, and Erwin Schrödinger were probing the quantum world. At scales smaller than atoms, reality refused to behave like Newton's machine. Particles became waves, waves became particles, and outcomes remained uncertain until observed. In 1927, Heisenberg unveiled the uncertainty principle, that the more precisely you measure one property of a particle, the less precisely you can know another. It wasn't a failure of instruments, it was the very nature of reality. Schrödinger, frustrated by these ideas, imagined a cat in a sealed box, alive and dead at once until observed. You may have heard of Schrödinger's cat, a thought experiment that still unsettles minds today. Dr. Carlo Rovelli, theoretical physicist and author of The Order of Time, explains that relativity and quantum mechanics both reveal a truth that feels deeply uncomfortable. Time is not what we think it is. In relativity, there is no single universal now. In quantum physics, events may not even have a definite order. Instead of flowing like a river, time might be more like a web. Interconnected, relative, uncertain. Imagine standing on a train platform, watching two trains rush past in opposite directions. Each passenger sees the world differently, their clocks ticking at slightly different rates. Now imagine that same uncertainty extending not only to speed, but to the very order of cause and effect. Could it be that reality itself is not a sequence, but a shimmering probability field? For you listening now, drifting deeper into this thought, notice how these revolutions mirror your own inner experience. In dreams, time stretches, folds, dissolves. A moment can last an eternity. An entire night can feel like seconds. Einstein and the quantum pioneers might simply have been glimpsing truths you encounter every time you close your eyes. These revolutions in thought did more than rewrite physics. They unsettled philosophy, art, even psychology. If time is relative, what does it mean for memory? If reality is uncertain until observed, then what role does consciousness play? Dr. Eugene Wigner, Nobel Prize-winning physicist, once wrote that it is not possible to formulate the laws of quantum mechanics without reference to consciousness. The scientist's mind had circled back to mystery, and here lies the paradox. As science sought certainty, it discovered uncertainty. As it tried to anchor time, it revealed relativity. As it measured matter, it uncovered probabilities. The revolutions of the 20th century did not close the book on mystery. They opened new chapters, deeper and stranger than before. So now, as you feel your own breath rise and fall, you might wonder if time bends, if events shift, if reality itself is uncertain. Then what exactly is this moment you're experiencing right now? Is it solid? Or is it simply one shimmering possibility among countless others, waiting for your awareness to bring it into being? Picture this. A man walking down a quiet street in 1950 New York suddenly collapses. When doctors examine him, they find his clothing outdated, his coins decades old, and his wallet filled with business cards from a company that had closed long before. Reports circulated that his name was Rudolph Fentz, a man who had supposedly vanished from the 19th century, only to appear suddenly in the middle of the 20th. Though later skeptics questioned the details, the story has lived on as one of the most intriguing so-called time slip cases. But whether fully factual or embellished, it reveals something deeper. Humanity's long fascination with the possibility that time is not as linear as we've been taught. Throughout history, strange accounts like these surface, moments when people seem to step outside the ordinary flow of time. In 1901, two English schoolteachers, Anne Moberly and Eleanor Jourdain, reported walking in the gardens of Versailles. Suddenly, they claimed, the world around them shifted. The people they saw wore 18th century clothing. The atmosphere felt uncanny, and one figure they later identified resembled Marie Antoinette herself. Their story, published as an adventure, became one of the most famous time slip reports in modern history. And these aren't isolated tales. In the 1930s, Air Marshal Sir Victor Goddard described flying over an abandoned airfield near Edinburgh, only to see it suddenly transformed, filled with planes painted in colors that didn't exist in the Royal Air Force at the time. Years later, those exact designs appeared when the RAF updated their fleet. Goddard swore he had glimpsed the future. But such accounts aren't limited to the modern world. The Roman historian Livy wrote about mysterious figures appearing in the Forum, speaking in accents no one recognized, only to vanish again. Medieval monks recorded visions of travelers who claimed to have walked for days, only to find themselves stepping into entirely different centuries. Even in folklore, from Celtic fairy stories to Japanese tales of fishermen visiting the Dragon Palace, the theme recurs. A person leaves the world for what seems like moments, only to return and discover that years, even centuries, have passed. Skeptics dismiss these tales as hallucinations, mistakes, or exaggerations. Yet, modern psychology and neuroscience complicate the dismissal. Dr. Oliver Sacks, renowned neurologist, wrote about patients whose perceptions of time fractured in extraordinary ways. Some felt hours stretch into minutes. Others felt seconds extend into eternities. If the brain can warp time internally, is it so unbelievable that it might also influence how we step through it externally? then there are the peculiarities of official records. In 1957, a man calling himself Jafar Vorin was discovered in Germany. He spoke a language no one recognized, but claimed he came from a country called Laxaria, located far away, beyond known maps. Though some suspected fraud, his case was logged in official police archives. Could this have been a case of mistaken geography? Or was it a human displaced not just in space, but in time? Consider also the Philadelphia experiment, rumored to have taken place in 1943. According to urban legend, the U.S. Navy attempted to make the USS Eldridge invisible using electromagnetic fields. Witnesses claimed the ship vanished from Philadelphia and appeared momentarily in Norfolk, hundreds of miles away. Sailors allegedly suffered disorientation, burns, and some even fused with the metal of the ship itself. Officially, the Navy denied it ever happened, yet the story refuses to die, whispered as evidence of technology bending not just space, but time. And perhaps the most chilling accounts are the small, personal ones. The kind you might hear whispered by a friend or relative. A person who sets their coffee down, turns away, and finds the mug missing, only to reappear minutes later, exactly where they thought it had been. A child who wakes in the night, swearing they heard voices speaking from another century. A traveler who gets off the highway to explore a town, only to find it filled with cars, fashions, and shops decades out of date, before returning later and discovering that no such town exists on any map. Dr. Jacques Vallée, a French computer scientist and ufologist, has argued that these anomalies cannot be dismissed as mere folklore. He suggests they may represent glimpses of a larger reality, one where human consciousness occasionally pierces the veil of time's illusion. As you listen, you may even recall your own strange experiences. A déjà vu so intense, you swore you had lived the moment before, a dream that unfolded in reality days later, a conversation that felt impossibly familiar. These may not be accidents. They may be subtle reminders that time is not a straight line, but a labyrinth. What, then, do these stories truly suggest? That time slips and anomalies are errors in a cosmic program? Or that consciousness itself occasionally loosens its grip on linearity, allowing you to wander the corridors of existence, unbound by hours and minutes? And as you let these questions settle, notice how quiet the world feels, as if, in this very moment, time itself might be pausing, holding its breath with you, waiting to see whether you'll step forward into the mystery or simply drift deeper into the comfort of the unknown. Imagine scrolling through your phone late at night when you stumble across a news article about a man found wandering in Tokyo's Narita Airport in 1954. He carried a passport from a country no one had ever heard of. Tarred. The stamps were real, the papers official, but the nation simply did not exist. Authorities detained him for questioning, but by the next morning, he had vanished without a trace. Was he from a parallel timeline? Or had he slipped into ours by mistake? Cases like this might sound like science fiction, yet they continue to appear in the modern age, across continents, across cultures. They suggest that time and reality may be more fluid than we're comfortable admitting. In 2008, two women in Liverpool reported walking into Bold Street and suddenly finding themselves surrounded by 1950s shops, with clerks dressed in mid-century fashion. Moments later, everything snapped back to normal. These time slip cases have become so common in that area that locals sometimes call it the Bold Street Portal. And then there are the mysteries captured not by eyewitnesses, but by machines. In 2010, a video surfaced from an old Charlie Chaplin film premiere in Los Angeles, showing what appears to be a woman holding a cell phone. Decades before cell phones existed, experts debated, skeptics scoffed, but the footage sparked a worldwide conversation. Are such anomalies simply mistakes, coincidences, or are they evidence of timelines brushing against one another? Modern science complicates things further. In 2019, researchers at the University of Queensland published a study simulating time travel using photons. Led by Dr. Martin Ringbauer, the experiment suggested that paradoxes, like the grandfather paradox, might not prevent time loops at all. Instead, reality seems to self-correct. The past bends to accommodate the present. If this is true, it might explain why modern anomalies never quite break the world. They fit themselves neatly into place, leaving only a strange aftertaste of impossibility. Technology itself produces peculiar glitches in time. People report time dilation during near-death experiences where moments stretch into eternity. In one study, Dr. Bruce Grayson at the University of Virginia found that over 60% of near-death experiencers reported time losing all meaning. Some described reliving their entire lives in the span of seconds. Others felt as though they floated outside time entirely, existing in a timeless present. Even our devices aren't immune to the strangeness. In 2016, dozens of users reported a bizarre bug in their iPhone's alarms went off at random hours with no settings activated. Engineers dismissed it as a glitch, yet people described feeling a strange sense of déjà vu, as if the alarms were nudging them awake at moments of significance. Could machines, too, be entangled in the subtle distortions of time? You might even think of your own experiences. Perhaps when a drive that should take 30 minutes feels like 5. Or when you glance at the clock, convinced only seconds have passed, only to find hours gone. Psychologists call this chronostasis, the brain's tendency to edit your perception of time. But what if it's more than a quirk of neurology? What if these moments are tiny fractures in the fabric of reality, when your awareness slips between timelines? Unexplained phenomena aren't just individual stories. They ripple into larger mysteries. Take the infamous disappearance of Malaysia Airlines Flight MH370 in 2014. Despite one of the most extensive search operations in history, the aircraft simply vanished. Debris surfaced years later, but the details remain elusive. Could such vanishings involve distortions in time and space? While official explanations lean toward mechanical failure, some investigators point to anomalies in radar data, with the plane seemingly appearing and disappearing from systems in ways that don't add up. Dr. Michio Kaku, theoretical physicist at QNY, has argued that modern physics cannot rule out time distortions. If time is a river, he says, then perhaps it can bend, twist, even fork. Reports of sudden vanishings, apparitions, or impossible reappearances may be glimpses of those hidden currents. And the digital age only sharpens the mystery. There are countless stories online of people receiving text messages from deceased loved ones, or emails time-stamped from dates that don't yet exist. In 2013, Reddit users reported a wave of phantom notifications, alerts that appeared on their phones but led nowhere. Psychologists might attribute this to coding errors. Yet for the experiencer, it can feel like a message delivered through the cracks in time. Allow yourself to notice how these stories weave a pattern. From airports to city streets, from old film reels to glowing phone screens, the modern world seems littered with subtle fractures. Places where time doesn't behave. And if it happens for some, it could happen for you. A street corner, a subway ride, a dream that lingers into daylight. A moment when the ordinary suddenly feels misplaced. The deeper question is this: are these anomalies warnings, accidents, or invitations? Perhaps they are reminders that the time you think you live in is not as solid as it feels. That beneath the ticking seconds of your watch lies a vast, fluid ocean of possibilities, waiting to be seen, if only for a moment. Imagine trying to pour water into a glass, only to find the water refuses to choose whether it's in the cup or still hovering in midair. This strange in-between state sounds impossible. Yet in the quantum world, particles behave in exactly this way. They exist in what physicists call superposition, both here and not here, both now and not now. And suddenly, the certainty of time itself begins to unravel. In 1978, physicist John Archibald Wheeler proposed the now famous delayed choice experiment, building on the work of Thomas Young's double slit test. Wheeler suggested that a particle's behavior, whether as a wave or as a particle, depends not just on how it is measured, but when it is measured. In some variations, the decision made in the present appears to influence the state of the particle in the past. Think about that. A choice you make today could ripple backward in time, rewriting the past at the tiniest level of reality. This isn't just theory. In 2007, Dr. Shahryar Afshar conducted experiments at Harvard that appeared to confirm aspects of Wheeler's paradox, showing that particles maintain wave-like behavior even after choices are made. More recently, quantum physicists in Vienna successfully performed delayed choice tests with photons, confirming that time in the quantum world does not behave like the neat, linear line we imagine. So what does that mean for you, lying here listening in the quiet? It means that the very fabric of the moment you call now might not be fixed. It may stretch, bend, or even rewrite itself depending on observation. You are not simply moving through time. Time may also be moving through you. Another puzzle comes from quantum entanglement, what Einstein once dismissed as spooky action at a distance. Two particles, once connected, continue to influence each other instantaneously, no matter how far apart they are. In 2015, Dr. Ronald Hansen and his team at Delft University in the Netherlands performed the first LUFO, free Bell test, confirming that entangled particles really do communicate faster than light. This shakes the very foundation of space and time. If distance and time cannot separate entangled particles, what does that say about our ordinary experience of seconds ticking by? Consider how strange this feels. You glance at the clock, thinking only a moment has passed. Yet, at the quantum level, entire histories may be rewritten, and connections may stretch across the cosmos outside of time altogether. Some researchers, like Dr. Hu Price at Cambridge, argue that entanglement suggests a block universe, where past, present, and future exist simultaneously, like pages of a book already written. You aren't moving through time. You're moving your awareness across a timeless whole. And then there's the quantum Zeno effect. Named after the philosopher who imagined an arrow frozen in mid-flight, this effect shows that if you observe a particle continuously, you can literally freeze its change. In 1990, Wayne Itano at Nesti demonstrated this using trapped ions. Observation itself halted their transitions. Imagine that. Watching time closely enough might stop it from moving at all. You may recall moments when time felt frozen, a near accident, a sudden realization, or even a kiss that seemed to last outside of time. Could it be that consciousness, like a quantum observer, has the power to bend and stretch moments? These paradoxes are not just curiosities. They ripple into how we live. If choices in the present can alter the past, if entanglement bypasses time entirely, if observation itself freezes motion, then what we call time may be less a reality and more a habit of perception. Picture yourself standing at the edge of a river. You've always assumed the current moves only one way. But suddenly, you realize the river loops, branches, and even doubles back on itself. You are not swept along helplessly. You are standing in the middle of a quantum ocean, where direction is not fixed, and moments are not singular. The implication is vast. What if your memories are not just records of the past, but active participants in shaping reality? What if your dreams are not random, but alternate branches of the same timeless whole? What if sleep itself is the pause when observation stops, and time, like a particle, simply ceases to move? Allow these questions to settle gently, like ripples fading on water. Not everything needs an answer right now. It's enough to sense the paradox, that time may not be what you think it is, that the seconds ticking on your clock are only a shadow of something much stranger, much deeper waiting, just beneath the surface, to be seen. What if every moment you've ever experienced, and every moment you could experience, already exists, shimmering in a field of infinite probability? Imagine tossing a coin. To your eyes, it lands on heads or tails. But at the quantum level, both possibilities continue to exist. Parallel outcomes, side by side, until observation locks one into place. Reality itself may not be solid, but probabilistic. In 1926, Max Born introduced the idea that the quantum wave function doesn't predict exact events, but probabilities. An electron doesn't have a definite location until measured. Instead, it has a cloud of likelihood, a haze of possibility. When you measure it, that haze collapses into a definite point, but the deeper mystery lingers. What does it mean that reality waits to be chosen? In 1961, physicist Hugh Everett Bathory at Princeton took this further with the many worlds interpretation. He argued that instead of collapsing into one outcome, the universe splits. Every probability, every toss of the coin, every breath you take, creates branching realities. Somewhere, another version of you is listening to these words in a slightly different way. Eyes closed, mind drifting. The you, in this moment, may be one of countless versions, walking different paths across an infinite multiverse. You can feel this when you look back at your own life. Think of a choice you made years ago. A yes, a no, a door you walked through, or one you didn't. It's tempting to believe the other option vanished forever. But perhaps it didn't. Perhaps it exists still, in another thread of probability, where another version of you wonders about this one. Evidence for probability shaping reality grows in modern science. In 1998, physicist Anton Zeilinger's team in Vienna performed groundbreaking experiments with quantum teleportation, transferring the state of one particle to another across distance. This isn't science fiction. It's probability at work. The state of reality itself can be lifted, shifted, and reappeared somewhere else. Then there's the work of Dr. Dean Radin at the Institute of Noetic Sciences, who explored whether human intention influences probability-based systems like random number generators. Across thousands of trials, subtle patterns emerged, suggesting that consciousness itself might bend probability, nudging chance into meaning. If this is true, then perhaps your focus, your thought, your attention in this moment is shaping which of many realities comes forward to meet you. Think about the lottery of existence itself. You could have been born in another century, to another family, another body. Yet somehow, through the labyrinth of probability, you are here, hearing these words, resting in this moment. Is it random? Or has probability been quietly guided by something deeper? The philosopher Richard Feynman once described reality as a great game of chance, yet one with a mysterious order beneath it. He believed probability wasn't chaos, but a hidden kind of design, like a dice roll where every side has meaning, even if you only ever see one face at a time. And consider the strange experiments with Schrödinger's cat. You've likely heard the story, a cat inside a box, both alive and dead until observed. But what often gets missed is the implication for you. When you observe the world, you are collapsing infinite possibilities into a single thread of experience. You are, in effect, the chooser of reality. Now, imagine drifting to sleep as probabilities shimmer around you. Each thought, each image, each memory could be a doorway into another branch. In dreams, perhaps you wander those parallel corridors, a life where you turned left instead of right, a life where you spoke instead of stayed silent, a life where you chose differently. Dreams may be the theater where probability reveals its endless stage. So what is reality, if not probability crystallized by awareness? What is your life, if not a vast constellation of choices waiting to be noticed? Some physicists believe probability doesn't just describe reality. It is reality. The universe may not be a machine but a song, played from the notes of chance, carried by the rhythm of observation. As you let these thoughts settle, allow yourself to feel the wonder of it. Every breath you take could have been otherwise. Every heartbeat marks a probability resolved. And yet, within you, infinite versions remain, whispering across the fabric of possibility. You are not just living a single story, but standing at the center of an endless unfolding where every choice, every chance, every possibility already exists. What if your mind is not confined to your skull, but stretches across unseen dimensions of reality? When you close your eyes at night and drift into dreams, you don't simply shut off awareness. You slip into another domain, a theater of mind that feels as real as waking life. Could it be that consciousness itself is multidimensional, moving across layers of existence just as easily as you move through rooms in a house? In the early 20th century, psychologist William James wrote that, "Our normal waking consciousness is but one special type of consciousness, whilst all about it, parted by the filmiest of screens, there lie potential forms entirely different." He suspected that the mind was not limited but layered, with hidden dimensions accessible under altered states. Modern neuroscience echoes this possibility. In 2006, Dr. Robin Carhart, Harris of Imperial College London, began pioneering studies using brain imaging on people experiencing psychedelics. What he discovered was astonishing regions of the brain that normally stay separate began communicating in unusual ways. The mind was not hallucinating chaos, but entering new patterns of order. Some described the experience as slipping into another dimension. Carhart, Harris proposed the entropic brain theory that under certain conditions, the mind breaks free from its usual constraints and explores hidden landscapes of thought. Ancient traditions anticipated this long before science. Tibetan Buddhist texts describe bardo, states, realms of consciousness between life, death, and rebirth. Shamans across indigenous cultures speak of traveling through spirit worlds, guided by rhythm and intention. Hindu philosophy speaks of lokas, planes of existence, each vibrating at different frequencies of reality. These teachings suggest that the mind can access multiple layers, not metaphorically, but literally. Consider a story told by near-death researcher Dr. Raymond Moody. A patient who had clinically died for several minutes described floating above his body, then being pulled into a realm of radiant light. He reported feeling more real there than in waking life. Thousands of such accounts across cultures share uncanny similarities: tunnels, lights, encounters, expansion beyond the body. Could these be glimpses into dimensions of the mind that only open when ordinary boundaries dissolve? Now imagine yourself standing in a hall of mirrors. Each reflection is slightly different. A tilt of the head, a flicker of light, a shift in perspective. What if your mind is like that hall, reflecting across layers of time, probability, and perception? Each thought you have might ripple outward into another dimension, another reality, another version of you. Dream research adds to the puzzle. Dr. Allen Hobson of Harvard once argued that dreams were mere byproducts of brain chemistry, but more recent studies by Dr. Mark Solms in the 1990s showed that dreaming is closely tied to the brain's dopaminergic system. the very system linked to motivation, imagination, and creativity. Dreams aren't meaningless noise, they are structured explorations of mind space. Some psychologists even suggest that lucid dreaming, where you become aware inside the dream, might be training for navigating other dimensions of awareness. Think about the moments when your sense of time bends. You sit quietly, and minutes stretch into hours. Or you awaken from a vivid dream that felt like days, only to find minutes have passed. These distortions hint that consciousness is not bound to linear time. The mind may flow across dimensions where time itself folds differently, where seconds bloom into eternities, and eternities compress into moments. For a more personal illustration, picture yourself on a quiet evening walk. The streetlights glow softly. The air is still. Suddenly, a thought arises, a memory, a face, a possibility. For a brief moment, you feel as if you are in two worlds at once, the outer street and an inner space vast and limitless. That flicker may be the mind shifting dimensions, reminding you that awareness is more expansive than daily routines suggest. What would it mean if the mind is not housed in the brain, but the brain is a receiver for a much larger consciousness field? Some researchers, like Dr. Rupert Sheldrake with his theory of morphic resonance, suggest that minds are interconnected across invisible patterns. Your thoughts may not be private events, but ripples in a shared field that spans dimensions. Imagine drifting deeper now, your breathing steady, your body soft, your awareness expanding. Picture your mind like a lantern, shining not in one direction but in many, illuminating dimensions you cannot always see. Each dream, each intuition, each synchronicity might be a signal, a whisper from another layer of yourself. The deeper implication is humbling. If your mind stretches across dimensions, then death may not be an end, but a transition. Dreams may not be illusions, but rehearsals. Intuition may not be guesswork, but echoes from parallel corridors of awareness. And the self you think you are, the you lying here, listening, may be only one facet of a much vaster, multidimensional being. As you let this thought settle, notice how expansive it feels. No longer confined, no longer small, but connected to unseen realms that shimmer just beyond reach. You are not merely awake or asleep, not merely here or there. You are a traveler of dimensions, moving through mindscapes as boundless as the universe itself. What if the human mind is the final frontier, not outer space, not the depths of the ocean, but the very consciousness listening to these words right now? Imagine for a moment that your awareness is not a byproduct of neurons firing, but the foundation of reality itself. Every breath, every thought, every dream might be part of a vast experiment, one still unfolding. In 2021, researchers at the University of Sussex used advanced brain imaging to map states of consciousness. They discovered something fascinating. The brain, in deep meditation, produced activity patterns as complex as those in waking life, sometimes even richer. Dr. Anil Seth, professor of cognitive and computational neuroscience, suggested that consciousness may not simply switch off. Instead, it transforms into states that are equally meaningful, equally real. Now think about how ancient mystics describe this. In the Vedic texts of India, the Upanishads speak of 4 states: waking, dreaming, deep sleep, and turiya. Turiya means the 4th. It is a silent awareness beyond thought, beyond dream, beyond sleep. Thousands of years ago, sages hinted at dimensions of mind that modern neuroscience is only beginning to measure. Dr. Stanislav Grof, a psychiatrist and researcher of consciousness, explored altered states through breathwork and psychedelics. He documented thousands of cases where people reported expanded awareness, archetypal visions, and even encounters with what felt like other intelligences. He argued that the human mind is not confined to the individual brain, but taps into a transpersonal field. Consider for a moment your own life. Have you ever sensed something before it happened? Perhaps you thought of a friend, and moments later they called. Or you dreamed of a place, only to find yourself there weeks later. These moments are dismissed as coincidence, yet studies suggest otherwise. At Cornell University, Dr. Daryl Bem ran a series of controversial experiments in 2010. He tested precognition, the idea that people can sense future events, across 9 studies with more than 1,000 participants. Results showed small but consistent effects. Students guessed images hidden behind computer screens at rates higher than chance, as if the mind could lean forward in time. Critics argued methodology, but the data lingers. Could the mind touch events before they arrive? Parallel work in physics raises similar questions. The double-slit experiment, first performed in 1801 by Thomas Young, still baffles scientists today. When particles are observed, they behave like solid points. When unobserved, they spread into waves of probability. This suggests that observation, the act of awareness, shapes reality itself. Some researchers, like Dr. John Wheeler, proposed that consciousness is not just involved, but necessary. Without an observer, the universe remains unresolved, like a question waiting for an answer. Now imagine lying quietly in bed, as you are now, your eyes closed, breathing slow. Somewhere in your mind, a thought drifts by. That thought may not be confined to you. It might be part of a collective field, a tapestry of awareness woven through humanity. Carl Jung called this the collective unconscious, a reservoir of archetypes and symbols shared by all. Modern studies in cultural evolution suggest that ideas spread not just through communication, but through resonance, almost as if minds sync invisibly. In 2017, researchers at the University of Washington developed brain-to-brain interfaces. Using non-invasive EEG and magnetic stimulation, they transmitted simple words from one person's mind to another. It was crude, yes, but it worked. Imagine what this means. Your thoughts could travel directly, bypassing speech, minds connecting, not through technology alone, but through a shared consciousness network that may already exist, waiting to be tapped. Personal stories bring this home. Take the case of Jill, a woman who suffered cardiac arrest in 2003. She was clinically dead for several minutes. Later, she described watching doctors work on her body, describing details that were later confirmed by the staff. But what struck her most was the sense of expanded awareness, as if she was everywhere at once. She felt time stop. She felt connected to everything. When she returned, her life was never the same. These accounts are common in near-death studies. Dr. Pim van Lommel, a Dutch cardiologist, published a large study in The Lancet in 2001. He followed over 300 cardiac arrest patients. 18% reported near-death experiences. Many included vivid awareness during unconsciousness, verifiable observations, and a profound sense of timeless unity. If consciousness continues beyond brain activity, then it is not a product of neurons. It is something deeper. Now pause for a moment. Let your mind consider this. If consciousness exists beyond the brain, then your daily experience may be only the tip of the iceberg. Beneath waking thoughts lies a depth that stretches across dimensions, across time, across the universe itself. You are not a closed system. You are a doorway. In physics, some theorists now speak of the holographic principle. It suggests that the universe itself may be a projection from deeper information fields. If so, your mind may be both projector and screen. Each perception, each dream, each insight is not contained inside your skull, but woven into the very fabric of reality. Picture yourself floating in a calm sea. Waves ripple gently. You are part of the water, not separate. Your mind is like that sea, with waves of thought rising and falling, but the ocean beneath remains vast, infinite. Science, mysticism, and personal testimony all point to this: consciousness is not confined. It is frontierless. The implications are vast. If your mind stretches beyond the body, then telepathy, intuition, and synchronicity are not strange anomalies. They are natural features of a reality we barely understand. If consciousness influences probability, then free will is not just choice, but participation in the unfolding of existence. And if awareness survives death, then life itself is not a fragile flicker, but part of an unbroken continuum. As you let this thought settle, notice the calm it brings. You are not small. You are not temporary. You are part of a vast mystery, unfolding at the edge of science, philosophy, and imagination. Each breath you take is not just survival. It is participation in a frontier more infinite than the stars. What if the greatest truths of our existence were never lost, only hidden? Imagine ancient scrolls sealed away, libraries burned, discoveries buried under sand and silence. Could it be that the story of time and of consciousness itself has been edited, shaped, and filtered, leaving you only fragments of what once was whole? In 1945, near Nag Hammadi in Egypt, a farmer discovered clay jars filled with ancient manuscripts. These texts, known as the Gnostic Gospels, revealed teachings far different from those in traditional Christianity. Instead of rigid dogma, they spoke of inner light, hidden knowledge, and the direct experience of divine reality. For centuries, these writings were suppressed, labeled heretical, and kept out of mainstream history. Only by chance, after nearly 2,000 years, did they resurface. Consider also the Library of Alexandria, built in the 3rd century BCE. It was said to contain hundreds of thousands of scrolls. Knowledge from Greece, Egypt, India, Mesopotamia. Scholars like Eratosthenes calculated the circumference of the earth with astonishing accuracy. Some accounts even claim that ancient experiments hinted at steam engines and mechanical devices centuries before they would reappear in Europe. Yet most of this treasure was destroyed by fire, war, and neglect. What if, in those ashes, secrets of time itself were lost? Modern research suggests suppression is not always accidental. In 1999, Dr. Stephen Greer of the Disclosure Project began documenting testimonies from military insiders. Many claimed that advanced technologies, including energy systems and propulsion concepts, had been hidden from public view. Whether you accept every claim or not, the pattern is striking. Information with the power to transform human understanding often disappears into classified vaults. Think of the Dead Sea Scrolls, uncovered in caves near Qumran in 1947. For years, access was restricted to a small circle of scholars. Only decades later were translations widely released. Among them were apocalyptic visions, alternative histories, and cosmologies that hinted at timelines beyond simple linear progression. Imagine how different cultural understanding might be if such texts were always accessible. Personal stories echo the same theme. In the 1980s, a researcher named Paul was cataloging artifacts in Central America. He claimed to have found a stone carving depicting a wheel, like calendar, with markings suggesting cycles of time overlapping, repeating. Before he could publish, the artifact was removed, locked in a private collection. He never saw it again. His notes remain, but the object itself is gone. Could it have been evidence that the ancients saw time not as a straight line, but as circles within circles? In Tibet, there are stories of hidden teachings called terma. These are texts said to be concealed by enlightened masters, hidden in caves, mountains, even within the minds of disciples, to be revealed when humanity is ready. The famous Padmasambhava, an 8th century mystic, reportedly left dozens of these treasures. Some describe visions of luminous time, where past, present, and future unfold together like petals of a flower. Science also has its buried records. Nikola Tesla, one of the most brilliant inventors of the modern age, spoke of tapping into the wheelwork of nature. In 1905, he filed patents that suggested the possibility of wireless power and energy drawn directly from the environment. Yet much of his work was seized after his death in 1943 by the Office of Alien Property. How much of his vision was lost or hidden? Now imagine yourself walking into a vast underground chamber. Dust drifts in beams of light. Shelves of scrolls, sealed jars, broken tablets stretch before you. Each fragment holds a piece of forgotten knowledge. Some are damaged, others erased. But here and there, words glow, whispering of forgotten truths. You reach out, and the silence feels heavy, as though time itself is guarding its secrets. Researchers in archaeology sometimes confirm these feelings. In 2013, Dr. Graham Hancock, author and researcher, pointed to the Göbekli Tepe site in Turkey, dated to around 9600 BCE. Its massive stone pillars, carved with astronomical symbols, suggest advanced knowledge long before civilization was supposed to exist. Why was it buried? Some believe it was intentionally covered, as if the builders wanted to hide it until a future time. Buried knowledge shapes the present. What you know defines what you believe, and what you believe defines what you can imagine. If timelines of history were edited, if fragments of truth were removed, then your picture of reality may be incomplete. Perhaps time does not flow in a straight path because those who understood it were silenced. Pause for a moment. Feel the weight of hidden knowledge. It is not about conspiracy alone, but about how fragile history really is. One fire, one war, one decision to lock away a manuscript, and an entire worldview can vanish. And yet sometimes, these truths resurface. A farmer digging in his field, a shepherd exploring a cave, a researcher following a trail of whispers. Knowledge returns when it is needed. Imagine if, right now, somewhere under desert sands, rests a text that explains time as a living organism. Imagine if, deep within a mountain, an artifact waits that shows consciousness shaping moments, freezing or flowing them. Imagine if hidden in classified vaults lies evidence that reality bends when observed. The mind drifts, the heart stirs, possibilities shimmer in the dark. The buried becomes unburied. The suppressed becomes revealed. The forgotten becomes remembered. Time itself might be holding its secrets until the right moment, the right consciousness, the right listener awakens. And perhaps that listener is you. What if the most profound truths are not hidden in caves or vaults, but right in front of you? What if reality leaves breadcrumbs scattered in everyday life, waiting for someone curious enough to notice? Sometimes, the most mysterious clues are not buried, they are overlooked. Think of clocks. You see them every day, yet how often do you notice their strange nature? A second ticks, another follows, then another. But if you stare closely, time does not flow smoothly. Your eyes and brain create gaps, tiny freezes where motion stops. In 2004, Dr. Mark Whitman, a time researcher from Ludwig, Maximilian's University in Munich, documented this phenomenon. He called it the stop clock illusion. People often see the second hand freeze for longer than it should, as though time itself pauses. A clue hiding in plain sight. Patterns in nature reveal other hints. The spirals of seashells, the petals of flowers, the branches of trees all follow Fibonacci ratios. Mathematicians have measured this for centuries. Yet why should life grow in repeating spirals, echoing golden proportions? In 2010, Dr. Adrian Bejan, a professor at Duke University, proposed the constructal law, a principle suggesting that all flows in nature, from rivers to lungs to lightning, follow universal patterns to maximize efficiency. Time may not be separate from these flows. Perhaps it follows the same hidden code. Now imagine this. You are walking down a familiar street. For a moment, everything feels strange, like you've seen it before. Déjà vu. Most dismiss it as a trick of memory, but in 2018, researchers at the University of St. Andrews studied this effect in depth. They found that déjà vu may occur when the brain checks one memory against another, predicting events before they unfold. A glitch in perception. Or is it a glimpse of time's looped structure? Stories of ordinary people noticing extraordinary clues are everywhere. Take the account of Sarah, who dreamed of a blue door with a golden handle. Days later, while visiting a friend, she froze. There it was, the same door, the same handle. Small detail, strange connection. Coincidence, perhaps. But for her, it was a reminder that time leaves trails, hidden in daily life. Think also of language. Words often hide deeper meanings. The word, present, means both a gift and the current moment. The present is what you receive, yet it is also where you exist. Ancient languages carried this awareness more openly. In Sanskrit, the word kala means both time and death. The Greeks had two words, chronos for sequential time, kairos for the opportune moment. Embedded in language are clues that time is not one-dimensional. Art is another place where hints hide. Leonardo da Vinci's notebooks are filled with sketches of spirals, water flows, and celestial mechanics. He often wrote that nature itself is the greatest teacher. Some historians believe his art concealed knowledge he could not express openly. The famous Last Supper, for instance, has been analyzed as a coded map of cycles and celestial alignments. Whether intentional or not, the suggestion lingers. Art reflects truths that words cannot fully hold. Pause and look at your own life. Have you noticed repeating numbers? Glancing at a clock to see 11 to 11, again and again. Many people report this. Psychologists label it apophenia, the human tendency to see patterns where none exist. Yet, as Dr. Carl Jung argued, some coincidences are too meaningful to dismiss. He called them synchronicities. Events that feel connected without clear cause. Perhaps they are the fingerprints of time's deeper order. Hidden clues also appear in modern science. In 2019, astronomers observed fast radio bursts, intense flashes of energy from deep space. Some repeat with clockwork precision, arriving every 16 days. It is a cosmic rhythm etched across the stars. What force keeps such perfect timing? Could the universe itself be structured like a grand clock, ticking beyond human comprehension? Even in technology, clues surface. In digital simulations, when computers generate random numbers, they often display subtle patterns. Physicists call this pseudo-randomness. It hints that randomness is never truly random. If reality itself is a kind of code, as some theorists like Dr. James Gates of the University of Maryland propose, then the glitches and patterns we notice might be evidence that we are living inside a deeper framework, a cosmic algorithm. Imagine sitting quietly, noticing small things, the way shadows stretch in the afternoon, the way birds migrate in arcs across the sky, the way dreams echo waking events. None of these are hidden in dusty archives. They are all around you, every day. But to see them, you must look differently. You must listen with more than ears. You must feel with more than hands. A simple clue can change perspective. In Japan, a Zen koan asks, "What is the sound of one hand clapping?" It is not meant to be solved logically. It is a reminder that reality hides truths in paradox, right before your eyes. By asking impossible questions, the mind is forced to glimpse beyond habitual patterns. Clues in plain sight are like whispers. They are not loud. They are subtle. You notice them when you pause, when you breathe, when you allow yourself to drift into awareness. The more you notice, the more the world feels alive. And perhaps, the more time itself feels less like a straight arrow and more like a puzzle, waiting for you to assemble. So, consider this moment. The ticking of a clock, the flicker of thought, the rhythm of your own breathing. Each is a clue hiding in plain sight. And maybe, just maybe, you have already seen them before. Consider this. We live in a time where discoveries are no longer confined to dusty laboratories or ancient scrolls. They emerge through glowing screens, invisible signals, and the quiet hum of machines. The digital age has become its own library of mysteries, and within it, clues about time and reality have surfaced in surprising ways. Think about how often you search online. Billions of searches happen daily. Each keystroke leaves a trace. Algorithms learn, adapt. In 2017, researchers at Stanford University demonstrated that artificial intelligence could predict personality traits with startling accuracy, simply by analyzing Facebook likes. What does this reveal? That patterns in human behavior are so consistent, machines can detect them. If reality were entirely random, could prediction be this precise? Or is life coded with deeper order? Now imagine this. You are scrolling through your phone late at night. Suddenly, you see an ad that seems uncannily specific, almost as if your thoughts were read. Some dismiss this as mere data targeting. Yet others report moments where the connection feels too exact, as though technology reflects something beneath the surface. Synchronicities amplified by code. Digital space is full of such strangeness. In 2019, the Massachusetts Institute of Technology studied the spread of false information on Twitter. They found that lies traveled 6 times faster than truths. Why? Perhaps because the human mind responds more strongly to novelty, to shock, to distortion. But hidden within this is another possibility. That reality itself favors certain flows of information, not unlike rivers following familiar paths. Another discovery came from video games. Millions play in simulated worlds. And sometimes odd things occur. In 2010, players of the game World of Warcraft reported a glitch called the corrupted blood incident. A digital virus spread uncontrollably across the game world, infecting characters, wiping out virtual cities. Epidemiologists later studied it as a model for real pandemics. A digital accident became a scientific clue. It revealed how chaos spreads, not only in code, but in life itself. Consider also digital memory. Every message, every image, every voice note is stored somewhere. Cloud servers hold fragments of billions of lives. Researchers at the University of Washington in 2016 developed a method to encode digital data into strands of DNA. In theory, all of human history could be preserved inside a test tube. The line between biology and technology is blurring. Perhaps memory itself is no longer bound by the human brain. Strange things happen when artificial intelligence creates. In 2020, OpenAI researchers observed that language models generated patterns that mirrored ancient myths, recurring symbols, and dreamlike archetypes. Without being told, machines created echoes of timeless human stories. Psychologists who studied this compared it to the collective unconscious proposed by Carl Jung. Could it be that patterns exist deeper than culture, deeper than time, surfacing even in synthetic minds? The digital world also reflects time differently. A photograph from a decade ago can reappear instantly on your feed. A memory once buried is resurrected, alive again. Platforms like Facebook call it, on this day. You might see a picture of yourself smiling years ago and feel the strange dislocation, as if past and present collapse into one. In this sense, The digital age has made time itself elastic. Moments never fully vanish. They linger, clickable, retrievable. Even randomness online reveals something strange. In 2018, Google engineers reported unexpected correlations in their quantum computer experiments. When asked to generate random outputs, subtle biases appeared. Truly pure randomness may not exist, even in machines built to simulate it. Some scientists see this as evidence that the universe, whether physical or digital, is bound by hidden frameworks. Think of memes. They are jokes, images, short bursts of culture, but they spread like viruses, mutating as they move. Richard Dawkins coined the term meme in 1976, long before the internet. He believed ideas replicate like genes. Today, we see this vividly. Memes reveal that culture itself evolves in patterns, adapting, surviving, repeating. In their repetition, they may echo how reality itself behaves, cycling, looping, replicating. Then there is the phenomenon of digital ghosts. Accounts of the deceased remain online. Messages continue to surface. In 2016, a woman reported receiving Facebook reminders for her late husband's birthday, years after his passing. Some find this haunting. Others see it as proof that digital memory outlasts the physical body. Technology has created echoes of the dead, fragments of consciousness persisting in code. Pause for a moment. Look at your own screen. Behind the glowing pixels, there are layers of data, layers of math, layers of light. And behind that, electricity pulsing in circuits. And behind that, quantum effects shimmering in probabilities. The digital world, though artificial, is still built upon the same foundations as reality itself. To study one is to glimpse the other. The digital age has not only amplified mysteries, it has made them visible. We see synchronicities reflected in algorithms. We see archetypes emerge in machine-generated stories. We see memory stored in DNA. We see echoes of eternity in simple scrolling. And perhaps the greatest clue is this: the digital world is built on binary, ones and zeros, presence and absence, light and dark, something and nothing. In this sense, the digital age mirrors the oldest dualities known to mystics: yin and yang, being and void, matter and emptiness. It is not separate from the mysteries of time. It is another face of them. So as you drift deeper into thought, consider this. Every message you've ever sent, every photo, every dream poured into a machine may still exist somewhere, humming in silence, waiting. Not gone, not forgotten. Just another reminder that in this age, reality's secrets are not hidden. They are digitized, coded, and delivered back to you. Picture this: humanity stands on the edge of its own invention. We are surrounded by machines that learn, tools that predict, and devices that seem to know us better than we know ourselves. Technology is no longer just assisting us. It is beginning to merge with us. And in this merging, new mysteries about time and consciousness are revealed. In 2021, researchers at the University of Sussex announced progress in building quantum simulators. Unlike ordinary computers, these machines do not process one possibility at a time. They explore countless probabilities simultaneously. What does this mean for you? It means that problems once impossible, mapping proteins, predicting climate, simulating universes, may now be solvable, yet it also raises an unsettling question. If machines can calculate multiple futures at once, are they peering into versions of reality that already exist? Imagine holding a small device in your hand, your phone. It feels ordinary, but inside, billions of transistors switch on and off at unimaginable speeds. Each switch is like a tiny decision, yes or no, 1 or 0, presence or absence. These flickers of possibility are stacked into patterns, patterns into images, images into memories, and all of this happens in fractions of a second. To your eyes, it seems seamless, but underneath, reality is flickering like a cosmic strobe light. Then there is artificial intelligence. In 2023, Dr. Nando de Freitas of DeepMind spoke of scalable agents, AI systems designed to learn endlessly. Unlike narrow programs, these agents evolve, self-improve, and adapt to new environments. Some researchers whisper about emergence, the sudden appearance of unexpected abilities. AI trained for games suddenly develops social strategies. AI built for language begins generating original reasoning. It is as though machines are dreaming. And within those dreams, glimpses of something greater appear. Now think of medicine. Scientists at the University of California, Berkeley, are developing neural dust. Tiny sensors, no bigger than grains of sand, that can be implanted into the body. These sensors send data wirelessly, reading the body from within. Someday, they may read not just your heartbeat, but your thoughts. What happens when technology listens to the mind itself? Does privacy end? Or does consciousness expand into a shared network where ideas flow like signals? Let's step into another frontier: space. SpaceX, NASA, and private companies are building ships designed for Mars. But beyond rockets, engineers are experimenting with ion drives and light sails. These engines push with beams of photons, traveling far with minimal fuel. The dream is interstellar travel. Yet here is the paradox. According to Einstein, the faster you travel, the slower time passes for you. If technology one day carries you to distant stars, your journey may last a lifetime, while centuries pass on Earth. Technology will not only move us through space, it will bend our experience of time itself. Consider robotics. In Japan, engineers at SoftBank Robotics created humanoid machines that interact with emotional cues. A smile, a tilt of the head, a shift in tone. These robots respond almost naturally. In hospitals, they comfort patients. In schools, they teach children. Some who encounter them describe a strange sensation, as if the boundary between machine and person has thinned, a presence that feels almost alive. Another edge lies in brain-computer interfaces. In 2020, Elon Musk's company Neuralink demonstrated pigs with implanted chips. These chips recorded brain signals in real time. Later, experiments allowed monkeys to play video games using only their minds. The leap is staggering. From thoughts to machines, without touch, without words. If refined, this could allow humans to communicate directly, mind to mind, the ancient dream of telepathy, reborn through circuits. But technology also carries eerie phenomena. In 2018, an AI trained on thousands of human faces began generating new ones. These faces did not belong to anyone. They were not real, yet they looked familiar. people who viewed them often felt unsettled, as if they recognized someone they had never met. Psychologists call this the uncanny valley. But perhaps it points to something else, that even unreal images can stir real memory, that somewhere in the weave of time, echoes of countless lives are hidden. Technology reaches inward as well as outward. Virtual reality has advanced to the point where full sensory immersion is possible. Researchers at Stanford's Virtual Human Interaction Lab found that experiences in VR, flying, swimming, even touching objects, left measurable changes in the brain. The body remembered what the mind imagined. This means reality is not only what you see. Reality is what your brain believes. And technology is beginning to shape those beliefs directly. Pause for a moment. Imagine lying in bed with a headset on. The world around you dissolves. You are standing in a cathedral made of stars, or floating in a sea of golden light. Your body knows you are safe at home, but your mind drifts deeper into another world. Is this illusion? Or is it another dimension of reality, unlocked through circuits and code? At the very edge of technology lies a possibility that scientists rarely speak aloud. That our own world might itself be a simulation. Nick Bostrom, philosopher at Oxford University, proposed in 2003 that advanced civilizations could run simulations indistinguishable from reality. If so, we may already be inside one, and our machines, our algorithms, our simulations, are mirrors, hunting at the truth of our own condition. Technology has always been more than invention. Fire was not just warmth. The wheel was not just movement. Electricity was not just light. Each step changed how humanity perceived reality. Today's steps, quantum computers, artificial intelligence, neural dust, virtual worlds, are shaping our understanding of time, memory, and even consciousness. As you drift with these thoughts, allow yourself to feel the strangeness, the screen in front of you, the device in your pocket, the satellites above your head. They are not just tools, they are threads in a vast web, pulling humanity closer to secrets once hidden. And perhaps the edge of technology is not a wall at all. It is a doorway opening into futures we can only begin to imagine. Futures where time bends, where thought flows like light, where reality itself feels rewritten. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine standing at the edge of tomorrow. Humanity has always dreamed of the future, yet the future we now approach is unlike anything before. It is not just a continuation of history. It feels like a leap, a transformation waiting just beyond the horizon. In 1968, futurist Arthur C. Clarke wrote, "Any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic." Those words echo more strongly today. Artificial intelligence speaks with voices that feel human. Machines design machines. Medicine repairs bodies from within. Spacecraft map galaxies in exquisite detail. What once felt like distant fantasy is arriving piece by piece. And still, the question lingers, where are we truly heading? One vision of humanity's next step comes from the concept of the singularity. Ray Kurzweil, inventor and futurist, predicts that around 2045, machine intelligence will surpass human intelligence. At that point, progress may accelerate beyond comprehension. you could live in a world where diseases vanish, where lifespans stretch for centuries, where minds connect in ways that feel divine. But perhaps the singularity is not just about machines. Perhaps it is about the merging of human consciousness with something greater. Think of how far we have already come. Just 150 years ago, electricity was rare. A century ago, flight was new. A few decades ago, the internet was young. Now, knowledge from across the globe is in your hand, waiting at the touch of a screen. The next step could be exponential. Quantum computers processing in parallel, genetic engineering rewriting DNA, space colonization turning imagination into settlement. Each step builds toward a threshold where humanity itself may change form. But it's not only about science. The future is also shaped by spirit. Ancient texts from the Vedas in India spoke of cycles, yugas, great ages where humanity rises and falls. The Mayans wrote of cosmic shifts marking transitions between eras. Could it be that we are now entering one of these shifts, a moment when time itself changes rhythm and humanity awakens to a new phase? Imagine your life in such a world. Perhaps you no longer wake in the same way. Instead of sleep and waking, you drift in continuous states. Neural interfaces let you step into shared dreams. Virtual and physical blur into one field of experience. You walk in a forest, but the trees glow with information. You meet a friend, but they are thousands of miles away. Time feels less like a line, more like a landscape where you choose your path. Consider health. Scientists at Harvard are working on reversing aging by reprogramming cells. Already, experiments with mice have restored vision, muscle strength, even cognitive function. If extended to humans, the implications are staggering. You might live not for decades, but for centuries. And if life stretches so long, how does your sense of time change? Days may blur, years may feel like seasons. What once felt scarce, your minutes, your hours, could feel abundant, almost infinite. Space also calls us forward. Projects like Blue Origin and SpaceX are preparing for settlements beyond Earth. The Moon, Mars, perhaps even orbital habitats. But beyond survival, imagine the consciousness shift. Looking at Earth not as home, but as one jewel among billions. Carl Sagan once said, "We are a way for the cosmos to know itself." Humanity's next step may be precisely that, becoming aware of itself as cosmic, not just terrestrial. Another vision arises in philosophy. Some thinkers suggest that the next leap is not technological, but ethical. Dr. Peter Singer at Princeton University argues for an expanding circle of moral concern. Humanity began with families, then tribes, then nations. Today we recognize human rights globally. Tomorrow, perhaps we extend compassion to animals, to ecosystems, even to artificial beings. The next step might be measured not in machines, but in empathy. Still, mystery remains. What if the future is not a straight path, but a branching one? In physics, the many worlds interpretation suggests that every choice spawns parallel realities. If true, humanity's next step might not be one future, but many. In one, machines guide us. In another, we return to harmony with Earth. In yet another, consciousness evolves into forms we cannot describe. Each possibility real, each possibility alive. As you let these ideas settle, Notice how they stir something within. Hope, curiosity, perhaps even unease. That's natural. The future has always felt both thrilling and uncertain. Standing on the edge, you sense the vastness, a horizon that stretches beyond sight. Yet perhaps the most profound truth is this: humanity's next step is not far away. It is already unfolding. In every innovation, in every ethical choice, in every moment you open your mind to new possibilities, the leap into tomorrow is not sudden. It is continuous, and you are already part of it. So as you drift deeper into thought, consider this: the future is not something that simply happens. It is something we are shaping with every breath, every dream, every invention. The next step is not only about humanity as a whole, it is also about you, the way you live, the way you imagine, the way you choose to see time itself. And maybe, just maybe, the greatest discovery is that the future has always been here, waiting for us to awaken to it. Picture yourself in a quiet room. The lights dim, the world outside feels distant, and you begin to wonder, how will people in the future think about existence itself? What philosophies will guide lives 100 years from now, 1,000 years, or even longer? Philosophy has always evolved with humanity. The questions stay, but the answers shift. Once, people asked, "What is the good life?" Later, they asked, "What is truth?" Today, we ask, "What is consciousness?" Tomorrow, we might ask questions we cannot even imagine. Yet patterns are emerging, clues pointing to where thought may flow. One vision of tomorrow's philosophy comes from posthumanism. Thinkers like Dr. Francesca Ferrando at NYU explore what it means to live in a world where the human is not the center. Machines may think, animals may gain rights, ecosystems may be seen as living systems with voices of their own. Imagine a philosophy where I is not limited to human identity, but expands into networks, intelligences, and shared being. Another strand emerges from the philosophy of technology. Martin Heidegger, in the 20th century, warned that technology is not neutral. It shapes how we see the world. Tomorrow, philosophers may ask not whether technology is good or bad, but how it weaves into the very fabric of being. When neural implants become common, when virtual realities feel indistinguishable from waking life, philosophy will ask, what counts as real? There is also the idea of temporal ethics. If time itself bends in ways science suggests, then morality may stretch across timelines. Dr. Thomas Metzinger, a philosopher of mind, speaks of the ethical landscape of future consciousness. Imagine if every decision you made rippled not only forward in your life, but sideways into other versions of yourself, other branches of reality. A future philosophy might not only ask what is right for this world, but what is right for all possible worlds. Now pause for a moment. Imagine you're walking in a garden. Trees surround you. A stream runs nearby. You bend down and pick up a stone. You realize this stone has existed for millions of years, long before your life, long before human civilization. Future philosophies may return to this simple awareness, that life is not about speed, progress, or even achievement, but about relationship with the eternal present. Eastern traditions already point toward this. Zen Buddhism speaks of satori, a sudden flash of awakening, seeing reality as it is. Taoism speaks of the Tao, the flow of all things. Tomorrow's thinkers may weave these ancient insights with neuroscience, quantum physics, and artificial intelligence. A new synthesis could emerge, a philosophy where time is not measured by clocks, but by awareness itself. Consider ethics in a world where lifespans stretch. If people live for centuries, how do values change? Patience might no longer be a virtue, but a necessity. Responsibility for the planet may extend far deeper. Because you are not leaving Earth for your grandchildren. You are leaving it for yourself. Imagine how differently you might act if you knew you would walk the same forests 500 years from now. Another direction is cosmic philosophy. As space travel expands, humans may no longer see themselves as earthbound. Philosophers may ask, what is humanity's duty to the cosmos? Dr. Frank White, who coined the term the overview effect, describes how astronauts looking at Earth from orbit feel a sudden shift, seeing the planet as fragile, borderless whole. Tomorrow, this vision could spread. A philosophy rooted not in nations or tribes, but in cosmic belonging. There may even be philosophies of artificial minds. Picture an AI philosopher writing its own meditations. Not human, not biological, but reflective nonetheless. What would it value? What would it fear? What would it dream? And how would humans respond to such questions from a non-human thinker? At the same time, a countercurrent may rise. Some may seek philosophies of simplicity, slow living, deep presence. Movements already exist: minimalism, mindfulness, ecological philosophy. Tomorrow, these could merge into worldviews that value not the expansion of technology, but the depth of being, not acceleration, but harmony, not conquest, but balance. You may ask yourself, what philosophy do you live by now? Whether or not you name it, every choice reflects a way of seeing. And as the future unfolds, you are part of this unfolding. You carry questions that ripple forward. You carry awareness that may shape what is yet to come. Philosophy has never been about easy answers. It is about holding questions gently, letting them guide, letting them deepen. Tomorrow's philosophy may not give final truths. It may invite us to live more consciously, more fully, more awake. So as you breathe slowly, as your body relaxes further, allow yourself to imagine a time when humanity no longer debates survival, but contemplates meaning at cosmic scales. A time when waking and dreaming blur. A time when philosophies are not just written in books, but lived in every heartbeat. And perhaps the deepest truth of all is this: philosophy is not something that waits in the future. It is happening now, in you, in this very moment, in the quiet questions that rise within as you drift into rest. Think about this for a moment. All the ideas, all the mysteries, all the philosophies of time and consciousness, what do they mean if they cannot be lived? Wisdom is not only in books. It is not only in temples, laboratories, or libraries. It is in the small details of daily life. It is in the way you breathe, the way you notice, the way you choose. Imagine waking in the morning. The light enters softly through your window. Time begins again. Or so it feels. But what if you carried with you the awareness that time itself may only exist because you are awake, that every second, every minute, begins not on a clock, but in your perception. Living with this awareness could change how you move through each day. Psychologists like Dr. Ellen Langer at Harvard have studied mindfulness, the practice of noticing the present moment. Her research shows that when people bring attention to what they are doing, they feel younger, healthier, and more alive. Something as simple as drinking tea can become a meditation. The warmth of the cup, the fragrance rising, the slow sip. Suddenly, time stretches. What was one moment becomes endless. Wisdom traditions have always pointed toward this. In Zen, even washing dishes can be enlightenment. In Sufism, sweeping the floor is a prayer. In Stoicism, Marcus Aurelius reminded himself to treat every action as though it were the last he might perform. These are not abstract ideas. They are invitations to live differently, to live awake. Picture yourself walking through your day. You go to work, or you care for family, or you simply step outside for air. At each step, you pause. You notice the sound of your feet. You feel the air on your skin. You realize this is time, not the clock, not the schedule, but this very sensation, this very breath. Dr. Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi, who studied flow states, described how people lose track of time when deeply engaged. An artist painting, a musician playing, a child at play. Hours vanish. Or perhaps hours never existed at all. Only the experience of being absorbed. Integrating wisdom into life might mean seeking more of these moments. Not waiting for them, but inviting them. There is also the wisdom of relationships. Philosopher Martin Buber spoke of the eye, though connection, meeting another not as an object, but as a being. When you look into the eyes of someone you love, do you notice how time disappears? The seconds dissolve, and only presence remains. Carrying this into daily life can transform even small interactions. A smile, a kind word, a listening ear. Technology, too, can be part of this. It can distract, but it can also remind. Some apps now encourage mindfulness breaks. Some watches vibrate gently, reminding you to breathe. Even in a digital world, you can weave wisdom by choosing how you use the tools. Instead of being ruled by time, you allow awareness to guide time. Imagine tonight, as you prepare to sleep, you decide that the hours between waking and resting are not to be rushed through. They are to be lived as if each one is unique, because they are. The person you are in the morning is not the same as the one you are now. Time is not repeating. You are creating. Integrating wisdom into daily life is not about perfection. It is about practice. Some days you forget. Some days you rush. But even a single moment of presence is powerful. Neuroscience shows that attention reshapes the brain. Even 10 seconds of awareness can build new pathways. Slowly, gently, life itself becomes your teacher. Let yourself imagine how different life might feel if you lived this way. Less urgency, more wonder, less measuring, more experiencing. You would not need to chase time. You would flow with it. You would realize that every ordinary act, cooking, walking, resting, holds the same mystery as the stars above. And as you hear these words now, notice your own breath. Notice the stillness around you. This is wisdom alive here, not far away, not in some other life, but in the life you are living, in the seconds that unfold as you drift deeper into rest. As we come to the end of this journey together, allow yourself to notice how far your mind has traveled. We began with a single question about time, and we wandered through ancient wisdom, modern science, hidden mysteries, and the very fabric of consciousness itself. And now here you are, resting, drifting, at peace with the unknown. Imagine for a moment that all of existence is like a great ocean. Waves rise, waves fall, yet the ocean remains. Each thought you have is a wave. Each moment of your life is a wave. They come, they go, but the ocean is always there, deep, vast, silent. You are that ocean, infinite awareness, timeless presence. When the body rests, when the eyes close, the waves quiet. Time itself seems to fade. The question we asked, whether time stops when you sleep, may never be answered with certainty. But perhaps it is not the answer that matters. Perhaps what matters is the way the question changes you, the way it loosens the grip of the ordinary, the way it opens your heart to wonder. Throughout history, thinkers have spoken of endings not as conclusions, but as openings. The philosopher Alan Watts often said that life and death are not opposites, but two sides of the same process. He compared it to music. A piece of music does not exist only in its last note. Every note is part of the whole, and the silence after the final note is also part of the song. In this way, endings are not failures. They are doorways. This chapter is not just a farewell. It is an opening into your own inner world, into your dreams, into the mystery that lies waiting in sleep. You may notice as you lie here how your body has softened, how your breath has slowed. The words flow through you like a gentle current, carrying you deeper into calm. You do not need to hold on to any thought. You do not need to solve anything. The mystery is not a problem. It is a presence. There is an old Zen story. A monk asked his teacher, "What is the essence of enlightenment?" The teacher replied, "When hungry, eat. When tired, sleep. Simple. Direct. No need for extra effort. No need for grasping. To live is enough. To rest is enough. To sleep is enough." Tonight, as you drift into dreams, you may notice moments when time seems to vanish, when hours pass in an instant, or when a single dream seems to last forever. In these moments, you touch the heart of the paradox. You experience directly what no theory can fully explain. That time is not fixed. That reality itself bends with your awareness. And so, the farewell is not an end. It is a continuation. Each time you listen, you may hear something new. Each time you drift with these words, you may fall deeper into rest. The script becomes a companion, a guide, a reminder that mystery is not to be feared. It is to be embraced. As you listen now, let yourself imagine that you are floating, weightless, supported by the unseen. Every breath carries you deeper into softness. Every heartbeat slows. The body lets go. The mind unwinds. The mystery holds you gently, like a mother cradling a child. You may already feel yourself slipping into that space between waking and sleeping. That liminal place where time loses meaning, where dreams begin to weave their patterns, where the conscious and unconscious meet in silence. Stay there. Rest there. Allow yourself to drift completely. Remember, the unknown is not separate from you. It is not outside of you. It is you. You are the question and the answer, the seeker and the mystery, the wave and the ocean. And as this chapter closes, feel no rush. There is nowhere you must be. Nothing you must do. Just this, just resting, just being. The words may fade, but the calm remains. The presence remains. You remain. Farewell for now, though in truth there are no goodbyes. Only pauses, only openings. And as you slip into sleep, carried by this moment, let yourself know you are safe. You are whole. You are timeless.